Hi everybody, I'm Bree the Plant Lady. Here we are on Friday, January 15th, so I thought I would do a quick foodscape tour, mid-January foodscape tour. And really, the difference this year is that we've been kind of consistently cool, not exceptionally cold, but not ever having what we usually have, which is like a random warm-up. And I really appreciate this consistency in temperatures. It's something that we haven't really experienced for a number of years here in central North Carolina, Zone 7. I don't really give the north side of my house a lot of attention because it's not always that interesting, but it's looking good. I have some weeding that needs to be done, like everyone. We can all relate, right? There's chickweed here and that lamium. I think that's also called hen's bit. I have, the same weeds as most everyone else. But what I've really been focusing on in this border for the last few years is ground plane coverage using perennials. So I have things like ajuga. This is a really cool little variegated ajuga. Different types of carex and sedum. And there's Miss Ava Grace here to help with the garden tour. There's a lot of different plants that I have in here that the main goal is just to not have to mulch. And they're doing their job, and I really don't ever have to mulch anymore, which is awesome. But I do need to do some weeding, so put that on my to-do list. Moving around the front, which is east facing and gets lots of full sun. I still have a ton of weeding to do out here. I've been talking about this for weeks. I need to actually do it. I have a bunch of things that I'd like to seed in here for the spring, and bulbs are starting to come up. You see, those are things I planted back in, I think, October. But what I'm most excited about out here is to reveal that the barley that I sowed really late, like 6 weeks later than the first half, is starting to germinate. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, I was really sweating it. I thought maybe the birds had stolen all the seed. I can see this from where I sit on the couch. And I've been a couch potato, I'm not gonna lie. I've watched so many shows on Netflix, it's really, I shouldn't be admitting this. I've been seeing the birds out here scooting around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what if they're stealing all my barley seed? But they aren't, they didn't. They probably got some, but you see there's good germination coming through. So this border won't look completely absurd. Now, I don't know how it'll be if this later area will catch up and they'll all kind of look the same in the spring. That'll be the next thing to see. This section that I'm showing you now was sown on my normal date. That was done on Black Friday. And that is always the date that I recommend. But this year I'm trying to, sow later and see what the germination is, and then ultimately this spring kind of evaluate which space looks best, and so I can give better recommendations to people. So I'm just really relieved to see that the second half of this border is in fact germinating, because I love this space so much, and I didn't want it to be a failure. I did get started on cutbacks this week, and this is a giant, massive ground cover of Phlox paniculata bright eyes, and I just came in with the push mower and mowed it all down and got it neat and organized. Now, this would be the time that you could mulch over that if you wanted. I'm not mulching. I've kind of decided I only mulch in the late spring, early summer, usually May, June, when I'm prepping beds for the summer season. And this year I'm really holding to that. I'm not gonna mulch this area, even though it would make it look a little tidier. I can live with it. So back on Black Friday in my poppy sowing video, I did an experiment where I just tossed seeds into this border without prepping the bed, without mulching or laying any compost. And I'm just giving you the update. I don't see any germination. So I do think that some bed prep is necessary. The things that have germinated, like this is Nigella, and there is some larkspur coming up in here. Those are self-sown. Those have been coming back year after year, but I don't see any of the seed that I actually sowed, where I was just sort of lazily tossing seed into the border. Of course, as I evaluate this other bed that I did prep, I see barley, that's the grass, and I see larkspur, that's this two-leafed cotyledon stage, but I still don't see a single poppy germinating. And what I remember from the past is, remember I sowed those fancy formal double poppies. I remember they were slow to germinate and they were late to bloom, and they really weren't as strong as my normal single flowers that I have been saving seed for years, which I'll show you what those look like, because those are germinating. So I'm gonna hold out hope that those nice double poppies will germinate. They're just gonna germinate slower. But this is what the poppies look like when they germinate. And this is a bachelor button. And again, that is larkspur. So once you can start identifying the seeds when they germinate, then you'll better understand what you have growing where. Remember, these things don't transplant, and I don't thin. The survival of the fittest actually does work in your garden. I'm not doing anything to these. I'm gonna leave them alone, and they will work themselves out. That's the joy of being a hands-off gardener. So I posted a video this week where I rehabbed this container, and I'm really pleased. I think it looks great. The wall is, it's looking like it's cold. I didn't fertilize this, and I'm wondering if maybe I should give it a little fertilizer. Things just aren't really growing as well as I thought, though that may be temperature related. Some of these pots look great. Like this one is in a spot where it gets like all afternoon sun, and I think that's why it's so full and lush. It's just, I love this container. I see it when I walk out the door. So, and this one looks good. This gets a lot of full sun as well. It doesn't really get rain because the house blocks the rain, so I do have to water these things. And then this pot here filled with barley as the backdrop, and then just some simple purple violas. And this border is kind of boring. My plan actually is to extend the bed to this crease in the driveway. So that's like an extension of 2 feet. And then I would like to put a little like walking path through it so it'll be more interactive and easier to maintain. I'll be sure to record that process. I'm planning on having someone with a sod cutter come and remove that strip of turf, because it is not worth trying to remove that yourself, and you have to remove it. You can't just layer stuff on top. That is the worst advice. Maybe for people in the north where you have clumping grasses, like clumping lawns, you can do that, but you absolutely cannot just layer stuff on top of dormant grass and think that it's going to go away, because it doesn't. If you don't prep your beds properly, you'll learn to hate gardening. And the main thing is getting that turf removed properly, which there's an actual tool for it. It's called a turf cutter. I don't own one. That's why I need to hire a landscaper who does. It's not an expensive process, especially for that much grass, and it is well worth my investment. So you can see the blueberries have a few leaves still, beautiful bright red, such great winter interest. And I can't believe how much water evaporates out of the feed tank because we don't have any humidity. Even with all the rain that we've been getting, I'm actually filling this right now with more water, and then I need to vacuum it and add chlorine. I get a lot of questions about how I keep this clean, and the thing is, I treat it like a swimming pool. It's just a small pool made from a feed tank, but the main thing here is just keeping up with the maintenance, and then it won't turn green. And I don't want it to turn green. It's like a feature right off of my back deck. And in the summer, yes, we do go in there. No, it's not big enough to swim. It's like a dunking pool. You can sit in it and drink a beer, and the water comes up to your shoulders, and it's super refreshing. Now, the barley clumps that I sowed back in like mid-fall are doing great, and you can see Ava Grace loves to nibble on the tips of these grasses. The nice thing is she doesn't eat so much that she never actually throws up from eating this, so it's great. Now I wanted to show you more poppies that are germinating and growing pretty rapidly. And you see how tight they are. This is, you know, a heavy sow. I'm not worried about it. The survival of the fittest always comes true. Now, another plant I want to show you what it looks like once it's germinated. Here, this is cilantro. It looks like cilantro, right? It smells like cilantro. Yeah, you can eat it at this stage. I'm gonna let it grow out. And then of course this, all of this, that is all poppies. So if you've just sown the poppies, it's gonna be a while before you get this, but that's what you wanna look for to confirm that they have germinated. So just sowed all of this week, so no germination yet. And I just cleaned up that border, again with the mow in place method, but I have not actually planted anything there. But I am excited to see that there are daffodils starting to poke out of the ground. So even though we've been cool, spring is starting to show its face. And here's a pot I did a few weeks ago. You can see that is wheat that is just starting to germinate in place in this pot. The arugula ground cover continues to thrive. It's actually starting to flower. And that's great because that will help feed pollinators. And I will allow that to just go to seed and drop in place. And that's how I have this massive ground cover that I haven't planted in years. It's just all happens on its own. And all of these things I planted a few weeks ago, nothing really has germinated in here yet. I'm anxiously awaiting that. I had some onions inside that I had got from the grocery store that started to grow. So I just went ahead and planted those in these 100-gallon root pouches, and they are doing well. Now I have on my list of videos to make getting all of these shrubs planted, and I promise I will, but I think we're getting rain again today. Like it's sunny right now, but it's supposed to rain starting at like 3 o'clock, so I probably won't get to that today, maybe this weekend. In this section, there's still more broccoli to be harvested, and everything in this border is growing well. Again, you can see a really dense ground cover of poppies along there, and then of course the edge of garlic. And then this corner I just rehabbed last weekend. So nothing's germinated yet, but that will come. I do see that my grasses keep getting disturbed, and that is from a little kitten who definitely thinks that I planted these just for her amusement. So if they don't transplant, I may actually blame Ava Grace for that failure. So one of the more exciting things that I've noticed is that this bed that I direct seeded a few weeks ago is starting to germinate. And I'm, you know, again, because I usually do this in November and everything germinates really fast, I was starting to freak out. And patience is key. When you start to think, oh no, what I did isn't working, you know, get in touch with me and I'll try and talk you down. Even though I'm not very good at talking myself down. But when I see these little sprigs come out of the ground, I think, okay, it's all good. It's gonna work. This is not a failure. This bed, you know, again, it's something I look out at from my kitchen window every day, and it's really important to me that it looks nice. And this is all self-sown larkspur, so it's far ahead compared to stuff that I seeded. And you know, I did this bed a few weeks earlier, and you could see the difference. Like there is barley that, you know, just 2 weeks before, how much faster it's grown. So I do think there's a lot to be said about your seeding time, but I have a lot more months to be able to evaluate this process. I still have a major weed infestation in this border, so I'll be dealing with that. Well, I hope today's mid-January foodscape tour has given you some useful information and some inspiration here from my Central North Carolina foodscape. Wishing you all the best, have a great weekend, and get outside and enjoy your garden and make some floating flower arrangements. Thank you so much for watching.